Chapter 201, 148, Freshman Race _2. Are you sure you want to make the purchase? If you're certain, I'll place the order for you. Positive. Then I'm placing the order now. Song Yun opened the credit store and placed an order for 99 pounds of mandrill mongoose meat, spending 1980 credits. Around 4:30 in the afternoon, the mandrill mongoose meat arrived. Lin Zikin picked up the meat and left the research institute, heading back to his dormitory. As soon as the door to the dorm was closed, he immediately couldn't wait to touch the mandrill mongoose meat inside the express box, and with a thought, he initiated, devour. You have devoured a large amount of 10,000 poison mongoose's life essence. 10,000 poison mongoose archive, 100%. The moment the text information appeared, a mandrill mongoose with pitch-black fur materialized out of thin air, hunting a colorful exotic snake in the grass. This exotic snake was venomous, its glands filled with a terrifying neurotoxin, a single drop enough to kill thousands of Earth's elephants. However, despite the snake's lethal venom, it bit the mandrill mongoose over 10 times during their fight and still couldn't bring it down. In the end, the mandrill mongoose ate it like it was spicy strips. Afterward, 2 pieces of text information slowly emerged in the void. You successfully unlocked the 10,000 poison mongoose archive and acquired the biometric attribute immunity to 100 poisons. Immunity to 100 poisons, your resistance to poison has significantly increased. The attribute description was just a mere 8 characters long, very simple and crude. The fewer the words, the more significant the matter. Similarly, the less the description, the stronger the biometric attribute's potency. Soon, Lin Zikin went to the school's living area and bought a waxy soldier spray meal set. In his previous life, eating this would always give him diarrhea. In this life, it was the same: eat once, diarrhea once. Now with the immunity to 100 poisons biometric attribute, he wanted to see if he would still get diarrhea after eating it. After purchasing the Spray Warrior meal set, Lin Zikin then went to a pharmacy and bought a box of anesthetics. Though labeled as anesthetics, they were actually a type of biological neurotoxin. He wanted to see if immunity to 100 poisons would provide immunity to it. Back in the dormitory, Lin Zikin poured a glass of water, sat down, and first consumed the neurotoxin with an anesthetic effect. After taking it, there were no issues at all. Then he ate the Spray Warrior meal set. He sat until it was time to go to bed at night, and still, there was no sign of stomach upset. Both of these poisonous items had been successfully neutralized by the biometric attribute immunity to 100 poisons. Several days later, one evening, the administration building, the principal's office. Lin Zikin accompanied Shen Qinghan here to undergo the second exotic beast gene injection. Before the injection, Yuan Dongji first examined Shen Qinghan's body to check how the Azure Jellyfish King gene was adapting and whether it was appropriate to inject a second exotic beast gene. However, the initial check left Yuan Dongji completely dumbfounded. Shen Qinghan's biological level had actually reached an ordinary 6th order? What was going on? Wasn't she just an ordinary 2nd order when they fused her with the Azure Jellyfish King gene the last time? How had she inexplicably evolved to an ordinary 6th order in such a short time? Yuan Dongji steadied her emotions, full of doubt, and asked Shen Qinghan, "Qinghan, how did your biological level evolve to an ordinary 6th order?" "Well, I practiced the blood tempering technique, and just a few days ago I achieved a body tempering great accomplishment, then my biological level evolved to an ordinary 6th order," Shen Qinghan said weakly. She had never told Yuan Dongji that she practiced the blood tempering technique, fearing that now Dongji would blame her for hiding it. At this moment, after learning that Shen Qinghan had practiced the blood tempering technique, Yuan Dongji was utterly shocked. She was nearly speechless. Her face showed complete disbelief. Yuan Dongji couldn't understand how Shen Qinghan, with her weak qi blood, could practice the blood tempering technique. Moreover, Shouldn't a body tempering great accomplishment equate to an ordinary 9th rank? Why was her disciple only at an ordinary 6th order? In just a few seconds, Yuan Dongji thought all of this through. Looking at Shen Qinghan, Yuan asked puzzledly, "How did you do it?" Shen Qinghan explained weakly, "I used the aqua control ability of the Azure Jellyfish King to direct the chi blood in my body to temper myself, and then it just happened." "Just like that?" "Yes, just like that. It's unbelievable." Yuan Dongji felt like she was dreaming. It all seemed too unreal. After some thought, she came to a conclusion and said, "If nothing else, it must be due to your special constitution. Whether it's a gene fusion compatibility of an unprecedented 21%, the possession of the unbelievable ability of gene slavery, or the capability to practice the blood tempering technique, it's mostly related to your constitution. Your constitution is too strong. In the future, you will surely become humanity's ultimate combat power." Humanity's ultimate combat power? Shen Qinghan listened with a dazed expression, unable to imagine that she could be so powerful one day. Yuan Dongji looked at Shen Qinghan, finding it more and more unreal. Had Shen Qinghan not lacked even a trace of origin force within her, Yuan would have suspected she was a different kind of being. Her senior disciple, Luo Qingxiu, was such a being, with an extremely unique constitution, very much like Shen Qinghan. 10 minutes later, Yuan Dongji stopped dwelling on the issue of Shen Qinghan's special constitution and began to inject her with the exotic beast gene. There were 5 exotic beast genes. One was the gold attribute golden wing demon butterfly gene, possessing a potent hallucinogenic ability. One was the wood attribute other shore flower worm gene, boasting a powerful camouflage ability. One was the water attribute living dead slug gene, which had a potent self-healing ability. One was the fire attribute hellfire lizard gene, with a strong burning ability. One was the earth attribute armored earth dragon gene, known for its formidable defensive ability. Yuan Dongji wanted to test Shen Qinghan's gene slavery ability to see if she could enslave multiple exotic beast genes at the same time and whether she could enslave exotic beast genes of different attributes simultaneously. Chapter 202, 148, Freshman Race _3. Qinghan. I'm going to insert it now. After a brief exchange, Yuan Dongji picked up the armored earth dragon gene serum and skillfully injected it into Shen Qinghan's heart, slowly infusing the golden liquid inside. Throughout the injection process, she continuously radiated spiritual power, monitoring Shen Qinghan's physical condition. Then, she witnessed an unbelievable scene. No sooner had the armored earth dragon gene been injected than it was neutralized by Shen Qinghan's genes, dissolved into nutrients and completely absorbed. How do you feel? I'm okay. Seeing that Shen Qinghan showed no adverse reactions, Yuan Dongji quickly picked up the hellfire lizard gene serum and slowly injected it into her heart. The outcome was the same, the hellfire lizard gene was directly subdued and absorbed. The subsequent injections of the other shore flower worm gene and the golden-winged demon butterfly gene ended with the same fate, all overrun and absorbed by Shen Qinghan's genes. Only the final injection of the living dead slug gene survived and was enslaved by Shen Qinghan's genes. Is it only the water attribute exotic beast genes that can be enslaved? Yuan Dongji muttered to herself, then said to Shen Qinghan lying on the bed, I'll go and fetch a few more water attribute exotic beast genes to test, I'll be back soon. No sooner had her words fallen than her figure vanished without a trace. Xiao Chen, it's really like you said, anything related to water fits me very well. Shen Qinghan, lying on the bed, turned to Lin Zikan who was sitting beside her and spoke. Lin Zikan smiled, indeed. It wasn't long before Yuan Dongji returned with 3 different water attribute exotic beast genes and continued injecting them into Shen Qinghan. This time, the results were a bit unexpected. These 3 different water attribute exotic beast genes were not enslaved by Shen Qinghan's genes when injected into her heart, but were instead directly overrun and absorbed. And throughout the injection process, Shen Qinghan felt somewhat unwell, describing a feeling of being too full. Yuan Dongji drew a conclusion from this phenomenon. Shen Qinghan's gene slavery ability was limited. It could only enslave water attribute exotic beast genes. Moreover, at most, it could only enslave 2 different water attribute exotic beast genes simultaneously. But she believed the limit was not just 2. It was just that Shen Qinghan's physical strength or spiritual power was not enough to enslave more water attribute exotic beast genes at the same time. After her strength improved in the future, she would definitely be able to enslave more water attribute exotic beast genes. Having understood this, Yuan Dongji shared her concluded theory in detail with Shen Qinghan to provide her with a clearer understanding of her own abilities. Then, she said to Shen Qinghan, the living dead slug gene you've just enslaved allows you to secrete a kind of mucus. This mucus not only has powerful healing properties but also serves as an excellent lubricant. In the future, when you and Linziken need it in the dorm, you can secrete this mucus. Oh, I understand, Master, Shen Qinghan said, her face showing a hint of blush. Yuan Dongji, seeing the time was about right, told Linziken and Shen Qinghan to head back to their dorm to rest early. As the two were leaving her office, she looked at them and said, "By the way, the date for this year's freshman competition has changed. It's been moved to mid-January at the end of this semester. Qinghan, your biological level has already reached the ordinary 6th order, I'm very much looking forward to your performance. I hope you can make it into the top 5 and earn the opportunity to participate in the winter training camp." I understand, Master. I'll work hard not to let you down." Shen Qinghan nodded earnestly like a model student. "The freshman competition has been brought forward?" Linziken raised his eyebrows slightly, intrigued. After the freshman competition and making it onto the freshman list, one would qualify to challenge the peak list. Normally, this couldn't happen until the middle of next semester. Now, with it being earlier, they could start at the end of this term. An early challenge to the peak list meant early credit earning. P.S. I'll update another chapter around 3 o'clock. Chapter 203, 149. The old student should be disciplined. The next day, at noon 12 o'clock. Linziken brought out 4 dishes and a soup from the kitchen one after another, neatly placing them on the dining table, waiting for Shen Qinghan and Li Chuxin to finish class and come back for lunch. Yes, including Li Chuxin. Just half an hour ago, Shen Qinghan had messaged Linziken on WeChat, saying that Li Chuxin wanted to come over for lunch and asked if that was okay. Linziken happily agreed and then made the 4 dishes and soup on the table. Creak. When the time reached 12:08 p.m., the dormitory door was pushed open. Shen Qinghan and Li Chuxin walked in from outside. Li Chuxin had a pair of fuzzy purple beast ears on her head, which looked incredibly cute. Half a month ago, she had successfully fused with an ordinary level Shadow Knight Cat gene and now was a lofty genetic integrator. Because she thought Catgirl was very charming, as long as she went out, she would activate her Shadow Knight Cat gene within her, sporting a pair of cat ears on her head. "Why do you two have so many bags in your hands?" Linziken noticed that their hands were full of shopping bags and asked curiously. Shen Qinghan replied, "We didn't buy them, these are gifts that Chu Xin brought from her home for both of us." Linziken, "Gifts?" Li Chuxin smiled and said, "The fashion store at home just got a batch of new clothes a few days ago, and I saw that several couples' clothing sets seemed perfect for you and Han Han, so I brought them for you as a gift." Linziken, "Chu Xin, you are too polite." "What are you being polite for? You two are my good friends, it's only right to give you gifts." After that, Li Chuxin smiled again and said, "Besides, I am here to freeload a meal, how could I not bring a gift?" "That's true." Linziken responded with a smile. Li Chuxin took out the clothes and said to them, "I've washed all these clothes. You guys try them on to see if they fit." They had even been washed specially, how considerate. To have such a little sister like her, Han Han is really lucky in life. Lin Zikin thought to himself. Then, he and Shen Qinghan tried on the clothes together. Come on, you two strike a pose. I'll take a picture of you, and then I can use a photo of you two together as models for my online store, it's bound to sell like hotcakes. Li Chuxin took out a camera from her school bag and said to them with a smile. Seeing this, Shen Qinghan teased, "Oh sister! So this is your grand plan? No wonder you came all the way here to give clothes to me and Zi Chen. Slander! Pure slander!" Li Chuxin said with the camera in hand, "Giving clothes is the main thing, taking photos is just incidental." After finishing, she added with a giggly smile, "Also, the food that your Zi Chen makes is too delicious, I couldn't resist coming over for a meal." Shen Qinghan joked back, "But the food I make is also very delicious, why don't you freeload off me?" "Sister, that's really unfair." Li Chuxin, "Who says I won't freeload? From now on, I'll freeload off your meals every day, as long as you don't mind me eating too much." Shen Qinghan, "I definitely won't mind. I will use my excellent cooking skills to fatten you up into a pig." Li Chuxin, "You're so evil. Fake sisters. I'm not talking to you for 3 seconds." They bantered back and forth, calling each other fake sisters, but in fact, they were very close friends. After spending a few minutes taking photos, soon, all three of them were seated at the dining table for the meal. Midway through eating, Shen Qinghan complained to Lin Zikin, "Xiao Chen, on the way back to the dorm with Li Chuxin, we ran into a very mean senior sister. That senior sister, relying on her status as an upperclassman with stronger powers than new students, actually tried to snatch the shopping bags Li Chuxin and I were carrying, it was really bullying. If someone hadn't recognized me and said I was your girlfriend, I think she really would have robbed us." "So arrogant." Lin Zikin was surprised. He knew that the school advocated the survival of the fittest, but he didn't expect it to be so outrageous enough that some upperclassmen dared to rob freshmen in broad daylight. Was such a campus atmosphere really good for the students? Unacceptable. Seeing Lin Zikin's shocked expression, Li Chuxin explained, "Actually, it's not as exaggerated as you think. It's not like just any upperclassman dares to rob a freshman. That upper-class woman was targeting me, seeing me as an easy target and constantly bullying me. Han Han was just dragged into it because of me. It's the same one I told you about before, the upper-class woman who borrowed my makeup and never returned it." Li Chuxin continued, "Zi Chen, you might not believe this, but the upper-class woman who likes to pick on freshmen is actually part of the student association, specifically responsible for room inspections." Lin Zikin, "Members of the student association bullying freshmen is indeed a bit too much." Li Chuxin gave a wry smile and said, "What's even more outrageous is that they have the right to justify their actions, claiming that they are training the freshmen. We common class freshmen have nowhere to turn when we're being bullied. Do freshmen at this school really have it so tough?" Lin Zikin found this somewhat surprising. He usually stayed either in his dormitory or in the gym and seldom paid attention to these matters at the school. Now, hearing Li Chuxin say this, he suddenly felt that the school's atmosphere was a bit too outlandish. "That upper-class woman who borrowed your makeup before, did she ever give it back to you in the end?" Lin Zikin asked Li Chuxin. "Li Chuxin, return it my ass. Not only did that upper-class woman not return my makeup, but she even came to my dorm last month and borrowed another piece of makeup. Acting like my dorm is her makeup counter. This upper-class woman is indeed going too far." After finishing his sentence, Lin Zikin added, "This is what we'll do. In the afternoon, you take me to find that upper-class woman, and I'll get justice for you." Li Chuxin shook her head, "Forget it. She's part of the student association. It's better not to offend her." In the beginning, she had thought about having Lin Zikin stand up for her. But once she found out that the other party was part of the student association and even had a student association boyfriend with a bit of a title, she dismissed the idea. Linziken was undoubtedly strong, but no matter how strong he was still just a freshman, with limited strength. She didn't believe that Linziken, still in his freshman growth phase, could contend with those in the student association. However, Linziken was much more confident than she had imagined, and he directly said to her, "No worries, let them be offended. Even if I offend the entire student association, I don't think anything will happen. I think these upperclassmen are bullying the freshmen too much, and it's about time they're dealt with. Anyway, I'll take care of this for you, you just need to lead the way when the time comes." Offending the student association? Linziken really wasn't worried about that now. Having achieved second stage body refinement completion, he was confident that he was currently the #1 student at Shan University. And with such strength, it was time to be assertive. There was no need to tiptoe around. Now that his friend was being bullied, it was time to take action. That was the very meaning of possessing great strength. "Zi Chen, I think we should let it be. If she wants to use the makeup, I'll just let her. Better to avoid trouble than to cause it. There's no need to make a big deal out of it." Li Chuxin was chickening out, unwilling to do anything risky. She was afraid that Linziken wouldn't be able to handle the situation, and that his good intentions would backfire, resulting in the upper-class woman bullying her even more severely. Compared to her, the usually timid King Han was now the brave one. Clenching Li Chuxin's hand, King Han said earnestly, "Trust in Xiao Chen's strength. He'll help you solve this smoothly." She knew how strong Linziken was, and that the mere student association stood no chance against him. Eventually, convinced by Linziken and King Han's assured persuasion, Li Chuxin agreed, "All right then, at 4 p.m., I'll take you guys to find her. P.S. Holding out my bowl, looking for monthly tickets and recommendations." Chapter 204, 150, Killed with One Kick. Just do it. At 4 p.m., Linziken had Li Chuxin take him to find that senior. They first went to the senior's dormitory, but no one was there. She was probably in class. After checking the senior's class schedule, they learned she was currently in the gym for a martial arts class. Whether it's evolutionary science or mechanical science students, everyone still had to train in martial arts at the university, to strengthen their legwork and improve their melee combat skills. Soon, Linziken and the others arrived at the gym. The gym at this time had several classes in session, all sophomore classes. "Zi Chen, it's that girl with wine-red dyed hair, her name is Ziki." Li Chuxin looked around and quickly spotted the senior who had bullied her, pointing her out to Linziken. Following her gesture, Linziken saw a very beautiful girl. Her hair was dyed wine-red and styled in soft curls, her skin was fair and smooth, and her figure curvy. Overall, she had a very sexy aura. If Shen Qinghan is a 10 and Li Chuxin a 7, then this beautiful senior would score a 9. She wouldn't lose to a female star on screen and was very noticeable in the crowd. "Let's go, let's head over." After speaking, Linziken walked towards the red-haired senior's class. Shen Qinghan and Li Chuxin followed. "Isn't that the freshman king from this year, named Lin something Chen?" "Indeed, it's Linziken. What's he doing at the gym? Looks like he's here to pick a fight." Heading towards evolution class 2. "The girl following him is really pretty." A murmur of discussions arose in the gym, and quite a few people noticed the trio of Linziken. Linziken ignored those voices. Under the watchful eyes of many, he walked straight up to the red-haired senior's class and called out to her, "Ziki, could you come out for a moment?" The red-haired senior frowned. Then, accompanied by her roommate, she walked out from her class. "What do you want?" The red-haired senior feigned ignorance. She had seen Li Chuxin and guessed why Linziken was looking for her. Linziken didn't waste words and just got to the point, My friend said you borrowed 2 makeup items from her and haven't returned them, is that true? Mind your language, please. What do you mean borrowed and haven't returned? It sounds like I've stolen them. I'll naturally return them once they're almost used up, the red-haired senior said displeasedly, adding after, besides, I didn't use hers for free. In exchange, I gave her my makeup to use. She was a bit afraid of Linziken, the freshman king. But only a little. She felt challenged in front of her entire class, and even if she was scared, she had to tough it out and not show weakness. Otherwise, she would have nowhere to put her face in the future. But mine were new, and the ones you gave me were almost used up. Li Chuxin muttered. Hearing this, the red-haired senior furrowed her brows, finding Li Chuxin unreasonable and felt annoyed. She glared at Li Chuxin and said with dissatisfaction, "Isn't it just borrowing some makeup? Is it worth making such a fuss? You're being too petty. Bullying a freshman and then accusing the new students of being petty? That's outrageous." Linziken didn't want to talk too much with the red-haired senior and directly offered a solution. You don't need to return those 2 makeup items to my friend, consider it a purchase from her, and pay the appropriate amount. Okay, but my roommate also gave your friend makeup, so similarly, you need to have your friend compensate my roommate. The red-haired senior's roommate interjected. This was favoritism over reason. Li Chuxin took 2 makeup items out of her small crossbody bag and handed them to the red-haired senior, saying, Senior, I haven't used any of the makeup you gave me, I'm returning it to you now." The red-haired senior took them and briefly glanced at them. Then she frowned and said, "Junior, this facial cleanser and moisturizer, I gave them to you nearly full. Now they're almost empty. You say you haven't used them, that's too much, isn't it?" "No, it's true, I haven't used them. They were like this when you gave them to me. Where's the proof?" "Senior, you're being unreasonable. You know very well they were nearly empty when you gave them to me, and yet you're doing this." Li Chuxin was getting quite irate, her voice rising considerably. The red-haired senior was determined to have her way today, and said impassively, "In any case, I can compensate you, but correspondingly, you also need to compensate me, otherwise no deal." She was somewhat wary of Linziken. But wariness aside, she couldn't afford to lose face to these 3 freshmen today and had to maintain her dignity as a senior. Not to mention, she had a boyfriend holding a significant position in the student council, someone with a backing. This meant she didn't need to appear too timid in front of a freshman king. There was no need for that. Seeing the other party uncooperative, Linziken didn't want to waste time negotiating any longer. He looked towards the red-haired senior's martial arts class instructor, a middle-aged man with thinning hair, and asked politely, "Teacher, if I remember correctly, the school endorses the principle of survival of the fittest. How do you interpret this principle? Does it mean the strong can trample on the weak at will?" "That's not it," the balding teacher stated and then explained, "to say survival of the fittest isn't quite accurate, a more precise term would be survival of the fittest. It's about encouraging competitiveness among students, to let actions speak louder than words, to use fists instead of talking if possible. For a conflict like the one you're facing now, if it can't be resolved through conversation, you can choose to settle it on the martial stage, let your fists do the talking." Chapter 205, 150, One kick and it's done _2. The bald teacher continued, "At Shan University, students have one challenge right per week. The weaker can challenge the stronger without condition, and the stronger, if they want to duel the weaker, must first obtain the weaker's consent. As for determining who is weaker or stronger, we look at the strength rankings if there are any, if not, we go by who is higher in grade. Also, challenges require a stake, usually in the form of credits. How many credits are wagered is decided by both parties involved in the duel. If the 2 parties can't agree, then the default wager is the minimum of 1 credit." The bald teacher added, you are currently a freshman and haven't made it onto any strength charts yet, so you have the right to challenge without condition. Lin Zikin nodded, I understand, thank you for clearing that up, teacher. At the same time, he thought to himself that this bald teacher was quite neutral, showing no favoritism towards the students of his own class. Perhaps he too disliked the upperclassmen bullying the newcomers. Thinking this, Lin Zikin looked towards the redhead senior, extending his senses to scrutinize her biological level. A bit weak, only common tier 5, not even as high as Shen Qinghan's level. However, in a regular class of second-year students, such strength would still be considered excellent. What? As a male with a physiological advantage, are you intending to bully a girl? Would you feel proud of that? Facing Lin Zikin's gaze, the redhead senior was a bit panicked inside but tried to sound calm as she said this. Hoping her gender could emotionally blackmail Lin Zikin into hesitating and thus not strike against her. Li Chuxin, seeing the panic in her eyes, knew they had the upper hand. So? She retorted resolutely and pointedly, as an upperclassman, you have the gall to bully us newcomers, yet you have the face to say such things. A bully riding on the coattails of others. The redhead senior glared at Li Chuxin. Han Han, you challenge her. Lin Zikin turned to Shen Qinghan beside him, speaking calmly. A weakling at common tier 5 wasn't worth his effort. Hey! Shen Qinghan was startled for a moment, not expecting Lin Zikin to send her to challenge the redhead senior. But quickly, she accepted the idea, nodding, I understand. Li Chuxin was also a bit stunned but reminded Lin Zikin as soon as she recovered, Ziai Chen, she's red-haired and trying to provoke you, don't let Han Han fight. In her mind, Shen Qinghan was still the underachiever who sat at the bottom of the class rankings with her. She worried that Shen Qinghan would get beaten if she went up. Faced with her distrust, Shen Qinghan simply said calmly, I can win. After speaking, she took out her phone and handed it to Lin Zikin to hold. She then picked the martial stage closest to them and dashed off in a sprint. When she was still more than 10 meters away from the stage, she leaped high into the air and landed on it. Looking back from her higher vantage point at the redhead senior below, she tried to sound as cold as possible, but her voice was still somewhat sweet. Shen Qinghan from the freshman genius class challenges Ziki from the second-year evolution 2 class. As soon as she finished speaking, her jet black hair instantly turned a bright, shiny blue, breathtakingly beautiful. Many of the boys below were momentarily stunned, captivated by the sight. The challenged redhead senior felt humiliated, her facial expression turning sour. She had seen the video footage of this year's new student trials and remembered Shen Qinghan, who was so pretty it was almost unbelievable. In the footage, Shen Qinghan was just a pretty vase that looked good but was useless, being chased around and beaten by a girl from a regular class, with weak abilities. Her biological level, gauged by eyesight alone, was only at common second order. It had only been a little more than 3 months since those trials. In such a short amount of time, even if Shen Qinghan had immense talent and evolved rapidly, her biological level would at best be a mere common 4th order by now. A weakling at common 4th order, where did she get the confidence to say she could beat me? Looking down on who? I'll resolve you, who doesn't know how high the sky is or how thick the earth is, within 3 seconds, weakling. With that thought, the red-haired school sister's calves forcefully propelled her, and within the next second, she sprang forward, landing on the martial stage with just a blink of an eye. Junior, how many school credits do you want to bet? The red-haired school sister looked at Shen Qinghan with a smile, feeling certain of her victory. Shen Qinghan didn't rush to answer and looked to Li Chuxin below the stage. Chu Xin, how much were those 2 makeup items she took worth in total? Li Chuxin replied, together, they're over 5,000. Shen Qinghan nodded and turned to the red-haired school sister, saying crisply, for a change, I'll bet 1 school credit. 1 school credit is too little, I'm not interested. If we're going to bet, let's make it big, Bet 10 school credits. Do you dare? The red-haired school sister felt she had Shen Qinghan in the bag. Faced with the red-haired school sister's proposal, Shen Qinghan did not make an immediate decision. Instead, she turned her head to look at Lin Zikin below the stage, seeking his opinion. Over the past half of the semester, her strength had increased a lot, but her character was still not independent enough. Many times, she needed Lin Zikin to make decisions for her. Lin Zikin had already grown used to this, and he nodded silently at her, indicating that it was fine to bet. Having received this answer, Shen Qinghan turned back to face the red-haired school sister and said, "Then let's bet 10 school credits." The red-haired school sister laughed, "That's the spirit, I like it." Seeing that both participants had stepped onto the stage, the bald teacher below voluntarily took up the role of referee. He looked up at Shen Qinghan standing on the right side of the stage, and called out to her. "Student, open the school app, there's a duel function in there, click on it, search for the name of the person you want to challenge, click on challenge, confirm how many school credits to bet, and the challenge will be established." "Okay, I got it, thank you, teacher." Shen Qinghan politely thanked him. She then took the phone passed by Lin Zikin and, following the bald teacher's instructions, initiated the challenge to the red-haired school sister. The red-haired school sister accepted the challenge with a smile and then handed her phone to her roommate for safekeeping. The bald teacher looked at the two on the stage, and asked, "The challenge has been established, are you ready?" "Ready. I'm ready." The two responded almost simultaneously. The bald teacher nodded, and immediately his voice boomed, "The challenge begins." The moment the words fell, Shen Qinghan immediately burst forward with a lunge, heading straight for the red-haired school sister. At the same time, with just a thought, she remotely controlled the qi blood in her body, plunging the qi blood within her into chaos. "So fast! What's going on? I feel so dizzy." The red-haired school sister had just been surprised by the swiftness of Shen Qinghan's speed when, the very next second, she suddenly felt dizzy, with her limbs going weak. Before she had time to understand what was happening, Shen Qinghan was already in front of her, lifting her leg and violently sweeping towards her head. Quickly, a bang was heard. Shen Qinghan's shin smashed heavily into the red-haired school sister's face, directly sweeping her off the martial stage with one kick. "Did I win?" Shen Qinghan was stunned. She had always thought that Lin Zikin had her challenge the red-haired school sister in order to train her. Therefore, she believed her own strength should be quite equivalent to the red-haired school sister's. But the reality was, she secured the victory with just one kick. P.S. One more chapter to come, around 3 o'clock. Chapter 206, 151, The Strongest Rookie King? The Craziest Rookie King. "Ziki, are you okay?" The red-haired senior's roommate, an average-looking girl with short hair, rushed over to check on her injury. It seemed pretty bad. Half of her face was swollen. Her consciousness was somewhat blurry. It felt like she must have suffered a concussion, and a severe one at that. "Here, open your mouth and take this fast healing pill." The bald teacher quickly ran to the red-haired senior's side, knelt down, and held out a bright red pill to her mouth. The red-haired senior, her consciousness hazy, opened her mouth and swallowed the pill the bald teacher offered. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it." Shen Qinghan jumped down from the martial stage, walked over to the red-haired senior's side, and apologized, her delicate face full of remorse. The short-haired senior glared at Shen Qinghan, her eyes filled with anger. But she didn't say anything to Shen Qinghan. Instead, she took out her phone and made a call. "Jin Minjiu, your Ziki has been kicked into a concussion, she's lying here with blurry consciousness, hurry over to the gym." "I'll be right there." A worried male voice came through the phone. Shen Qinghan stood by, feeling somewhat at a loss. She truly didn't expect the red-haired senior to be so fragile, she thought they were evenly matched, or she would never have gone all out from the start. Fellow student, accidents happen in martial arts, getting hurt on the martial stage is quite normal, there's no need to blame yourself too much, the bald teacher consoled Shen Qinghan. Shen Qinghan remained silent, just standing there with pursed lips, feeling especially guilty. Seeing her like this, the bald teacher didn't continue to comfort her. It was like this the first time. After she has more experience, she'll naturally get used to it. Han Han, how are you so strong? Li Chuxin ran over to Shen Qinghan's side and stopped, looking at her incredulously, feeling like her little sister had become a stranger. Back in high school, they were all at the bottom of the class. How much time had passed, and how had her strength become so formidable? So formidable that it felt like they were people from two different worlds. The more Li Chuxin thought about it, the more she found it unbelievable. Mirror, is there a mirror? I need to see how bad my face is. The red-haired senior, having taken the fast healing pill, quickly regained her clarity and immediately asked her short-haired roommate for a mirror. The short-haired senior took out a small mirror and handed it to the red-haired senior. The red-haired senior looked at herself and saw one side of her face swollen, with a wound that had crusted with blood, and immediately, her mood crumbled. My face. I'm going to be disfigured, I'm going to be disfigured. Why did you have to kick my face, why did you have to hit me so hard? The red-haired senior's emotions spiraled out of control as she cried and loudly questioned Shen Qinghan. Shen Qinghan bit her lip, I'm sorry. Han Han, let's go, don't mind her, she's just not as good as you did nothing wrong, you don't have to apologize to her. Li Chuxin said as she grabbed Shen Qinghan's hand, intending to take her away from the scene, unwilling to watch her apologize to the red-haired senior. The red-haired senior deserved it, no sympathy was warranted. Stop, don't you move. The short-haired senior ran over quickly, blocking their path, eyes brimming with fury. Li Chuxin frowned slightly and retorted, what right do you have to stop us? Short-haired girl, you hurt someone and just run away, you think it's that easy? Crazy! Li Chuxin cursed. Having cursed, she led Shen Qinghan around the short-haired senior, unwilling to entangle herself further. The short-haired senior sister tried to stop them, but Lin Zikin stepped in front of her and said, Senior sister, you agreed to the bet, so let's not be sore losers. Yes, your friend is very strong. My roommate can't beat her. After saying this, the short-haired senior sister questioned, but did she have to be so vicious as to aim specifically at my roommate's pretty face when hitting her? Lin Zikin was completely calm, when someone's skills are inferior, they are just that, there's nothing more to say. If you keep pestering me, then I'll have no choice but to take action against you. Come on, if you've got the guts, hit me, you newcomer king, think you're something. My name is Huang Fifei, Huang as in the color yellow, Fifei as in right and wrong, if you dare, challenge me right now. If you don't challenge me and swell up my face too, then you're a coward. The short-haired senior sister was a little crazy, spewing a stream of words, clearly a hot-tempered savage woman. Lin Zikin didn't say much to her, just took out his phone, opened the school app, and challenged her right then and there. Betting 1 academic credit, the challenge was in effect immediately. Having done this, Lin Zikin then picked up the short-haired senior sister and tossed her onto the martial stage. Right after, he leaped onto the martial stage himself with a jump. What are you trying to do? The short-haired senior sister got up from the martial stage, looking at Lin Zikin in panic and asked. Lin Zikin spoke indifferently, I don't want to be the coward you speak of. After saying that, he swept his foot across the face of the short-haired senior sister, and with a bang, swept her off the stage. She rolled on the ground several times, until she crashed into the crowd. The short-haired senior sister finally stopped, lying on the ground in a daze, moaning in pain. She too had a concussion, with half of her face swelling up severely, looking even more injured than the red-haired senior sister before her. Lin Zikin, you've gone too far, how can you hit a girl's face so hard? Below the stage, a male student from the second year evolution class 2 criticized aloud. Once one person started criticizing, soon a second person joined in. That's right, it's so tasteless. You don't have any sense of chivalry at all. This person definitely has a tendency for domestic violence. The students from the second year evolution class 2 were condemning Linziken one after another, launching fierce attacks on his moral standards. Linziken glanced at the people below the stage and said in an unfluctuating tone, "Since you all find me so objectionable, then come up here and teach me a lesson now, let your fists do the talking." At these words, the previously noisy crowd below the stage suddenly fell silent. The students from the second year evolution class 2 all chickened out. No one dared to take up the challenge. They all knew Linziken's combat record, having blown up an entire class of geniuses during the school's opening trials. And now, over 3 months later, his strength was undoubtedly even greater, not something ordinary second-year students like them could provoke. Linziken, even if you are the newcomer king, don't be so arrogant. There's always someone better, there's always a higher sky, someone will be able to deal with you. Someone from the second-year evolution class 2 shouted this at Linziken. Linziken looked in the direction the voice came from, expressionless. There is someone who can deal with me, but he won't be a student from Shan University. Arrogant. Truly arrogant. This newcomer king is utterly unbridled. Too bad they can't handle him. Damn. At this moment, the students from the second year evolution class 2 were all fuming with frustration. But constrained by their lack of strength, they could only bear it. Seeing that no one dared to come on stage, Linziken decided not to waste any more time, turned around, and was about to jump down from the martial stage to leave. Just then, someone in the crowd suddenly shouted. The boyfriend of Li Ziki has arrived. P.S. Begging for monthly and recommendation tickets. Chapter 207, 152. Paid substitution. The gymnasium, second floor. The advanced training room. Under the guidance of their homeroom teacher, the students of the freshman genius class were using a variety of high-tech training equipment, such as gravity chambers, spirit cabins, and reaction chambers to undergo ultra-high-intensity strengthening training. Li Moyu is too fierce, he can even withstand the power of a 7th-order gravity chamber. That's incredible. Luo Yongjian has already been in the spirit cabin for almost a minute and he's still holding on. Ma Ziwei is awesome too, she has already scored an S-grade rating in the reaction chamber. In the genius class, the 3 phantoms Li Moyu, Ma Ziwei, and Luo Yongjian stood out in the advanced training room, drawing continuous exclamations from their classmates. Seeing the 3 phantoms improve so much in less than a semester, many thought of Linziken. This new student king, heralded as the most powerful in the school's history, dominated during the enrollment trial, crushing the likes of Li Moyu, Ma Ziwei, and Luo Yongjian at that time. Now that nearly a semester has passed, his current strength and how much he has improved is unknown. Most likely he hasn't made much progress. After all, he has taken the pure-blood human path and hasn't undergone genetic fusion. Thinking thus, many shook their heads. Linziken hasn't undergone genetic fusion to this day, he must have been left far behind by those 3. That new student king is out of his mind. He has a high compatibility for genetic fusion, but he insists on taking the pure-blood human path, isn't that stupid? Sigh, honestly, it's a shame to blend in with the crowd like this. The genius class was either mocking or lamenting. But without exception, they all thought Linziken was foolish. A girl said in bewilderment, I don't understand what Shen Qinghan is thinking. If I were her, I'd definitely persuade Linziken to switch to Evolution College and stop following the pure-blood human path, it's such a waste of talent. At that moment, Ma Ziwei came out of the reaction chamber and, upon hearing the girl's words, looked at her with a cold gaze and said, people have their own ambitions. Don't judge others so casually. That's true. The girl laughed awkwardly. Ma Ziwei, the daughter of the college dean, was someone most classmates, except for a few with powerful family backgrounds, were quite afraid of. They were very cautious around her, fearing they might offend her. After all, the daughter of the dean had a somewhat aloof demeanor and didn't seem easy to get along with. "Teacher, why isn't Shen Qinghan in class?" Ma Ziwei asked the homeroom teacher. Shen Qinghan was an exemplary student who had never been late since the start of school. Yet today, she was absent from their first class in the advanced training room, which was quite unusual. The homeroom teacher replied, "Qinghan said she has urgent matters to deal with and asked for leave today." "I see." Ma Ziwei nodded and didn't inquire further. Before long, Li Moya from the gravity chamber, and Luo Yongjian from the spirit cabin, both emerged from their respective chambers, concluding their training. Both were drenched in sweat and gasping for breath. They found a place to sit down and rest. The intensity of the training they had just undergone was high and consumed a lot of their energy. Seeing that nobody else in the class was training and all were gathered in the hall resting, the homeroom teacher spoke up. "I've just received a notification from the Academic Affairs Office. The new student competition for your year has been moved up to the end of this semester and is scheduled for January 18th. So sudden." Someone felt caught off guard. At the same time, others felt excited. The most excited was none other than Li Moyu. "Better to have it sooner," Li Moyu confidently said with a smile. "I can't wait to beat Lin Zikan." Although he had been crushed by Lin Zikan during the enrollment trial, that was several months ago. Now, after undergoing several genetic fusions, his strength had significantly improved to the level of an ordinary 6th order, approaching that of a 7th order. He believed that Lin Zikan, who hadn't undergone genetic fusion, couldn't possibly compare to him. As for the pure-blood human path, Song Yuan, once the runner-up of the capital city list, was a bloody lesson. Not only did Li Moyu think this way, but so did Ma Ziwei. She felt it was a pity that Lin Zikan was misguided. Without undergoing genetic fusion or mechanical modification, he was destined to become just another Song Yuan. While it was a pity, they could only respect the fate of others. "Holy shit, there's a fight downstairs!" A boy returning from the restroom shouted excitedly to everyone, "Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan are stirring up trouble. They fought with the sophomore flower from Evolution College downstairs. They even beat up her roommate alongside her, swelling their faces so much they look like pigs' heads, completely disfigured. Now that Flower's boyfriend has rushed over and is confronting Lin Zikan. They beat up the sophomore college Flower? Confronted the student council's disciplinary officer? Is that really true? Is Lin Zikan that audacious?" The faces of everyone in the genius class were full of shock and disbelief. "Let's go, down to have a look," someone shouted. The very next second, the entire genius class rushed out of the training room, eager to go downstairs and watch the drama unfold. Li Moyu, Ma Ziwei, Luo Yongjian and others went to the corridor to look. Meanwhile, downstairs, Lin Zikan was still standing on the martial stage, quietly watching a man and a woman below the stage. The woman was the red-haired senior sister, Ziki. The man was a student council disciplinary officer and also Ziki's boyfriend, named Jin Minjiu. Jin Minjiu's anger flared as he clenched his fists and ground his teeth, seeing his college flower girlfriend's swollen face. "Take care of her for me." Chapter 208, 152. Paid substitution _2. "Oh, all right." After asking a girl next to him to take care of his girlfriend, Jin Minjiu leapt onto the martial stage with a thump. His gaze icy, he looked at Lin Zikan and said with a hint of anger, "Junior, isn't it a bit too much to strike a girl's face with such force?" He didn't know that his girlfriend had been beaten to that state by Shen Qinghan. Seeing Lin Zikan standing on the martial stage, he subconsciously assumed this new king was the culprit. Lin Zikan didn't bother to explain, he just said leisurely, "I think it's your girlfriend who's more out of line for bullying the freshman." Don't spout nonsense without evidence. Jin Minjiahu's face darkened. Truth be told, he didn't want to conflict with Lin Zikan. Lin Zikan was the strongest new student in school history. Although he had chosen to follow the pure-blood human path, as long as he switched majors to Evolution College later, his future would still be bright. By comparison, he was just a minor member of the student council's disciplinary committee and couldn't hold a candle to Lin Zikan. Starting a conflict with Lin Zikan now, if he ended up on Lin Zikan's bad side, then life at Shan University would definitely be tough later on. But he had no choice now. His girlfriend had been beaten to such an extent that he had to stand up for her, even if reluctantly. Brother, your girlfriend often bullies freshmen in the ordinary classes. I've seen it plenty of times, how can there be no evidence? This voice came from the second-floor corridor. It was Luo Yongjian from the first-year talented class. At this moment, he stood calmly on the corridor railing, arms crossed and looking down on the martial stage from above. You'd better take back what you just said, or I can have you brought before the student council for spreading rumors, to serve as a volunteer at any time, Jin Minjiahu said, looking up at Luo Yongjian with a threatening tone. Luo Yongjian just laughed and retorted, threaten me? Truly shameless is invincible in this world. Covering for your own people and being an accomplice to tyranny, do you even deserve to be a disciplinary inspector? That hit the nail on the head, leaving Jin Minjiahu speechless. After being rendered speechless, anger ensued. The new king mocks me, I tolerate. But who do you think you are? Just a mere freshman, yet you dare to mock me? Courting death. Jin Minjiahu's fury reached its peak, and with a thought, he activated his exotic beast gene inside his body, causing dense golden fur to sprout on his skin, ready to deal with Luo Yongjian from his position as a disciplinary inspector. Just as he was about to jump to the second-floor corridor to lay hands on Luo Yongjian, Lin Zikan, standing opposite him, didn't want to waste time on the martial stage and looked at him saying, if you want to seek justice for your girlfriend, then let's have a fight right now. Otherwise, I'm leaving, and I won't have so much time to entangle with you here. Fine, you said it. Jin Minjiahu didn't care about not offending anyone anymore. He just wanted to quickly end the farce and leave. Looking at Lin Zikan, he asked, how many credits do you want to bet? Lin Zikan, however much you have, I'll bet that much. Crazy. This new king is too arrogant. The crowd below all marveled at Lin Zikan's confidence, never expecting him to dare to bet any amount of credits. Keep in mind, Jin Minjiahu was a member of the student council, whose biological level had already reached the impressive 7th level of the ordinary class. His strength was extremely formidable. And Lin Zikan, although talented, had chosen the pure-blood human path and hadn't undergone genetic fusion, so his strength was probably about the same as when he started school. Yet even so, he dared to challenge Jin Minjiahu on the martial stage. Could it be that his strength from the start of school was already at the 7th level of the ordinary class? Just hidden? But that was impossible. Everyone was perplexed. Jin Minjiahu was also bewildered by this. No matter how he thought about it, Lin Zikan's strength could not possibly reach the 7th level of the ordinary class. The only explanation was that Lin Zikan was very conceited. Probably never having lost from childhood, always steamrolling his peers, leading to an inflated ego. Thinking this, Jin Minjiahu held up 3 fingers to Lin Zikan and said expressionlessly, I bet 300 credits, do you have it? I have it. Lin Zikan said calmly. Jin Minjiahu raised his brows, not expecting Lin Zikan to actually have that many credits. He was doubtful but didn't dwell on it for long. Instead, he took out his smartphone, opened the school app, and issued a challenge to Lin Zikan. The bet was for 300 credits. When Lin Zikan saw the challenge notification, he responded without hesitation, choosing to fight. Seeing that he really accepted the fight, Jin Minjiahu couldn't help but laugh. Daring to bet 300 credits. This new king really thought too highly of himself. Doomed to suffer a setback. On the second floor corridor, Ma Ziwei was shocked to see Lin Zikan accept the challenge, especially with the stakes being as high as 300 credits. How could he dare? How could Lin Zikan dare to do so? Jin Minjiao was no pushover, he was a student from the second-year talented class with a biological level reaching the impressive 7th level. Wasn't Lin Zikan being too arrogant? Damn, this looks so thrilling, why didn't I think of such a way to show off? Luo Yongjian next to him was full of admiration. He had diligently studied the art of showing off for years, always thinking about how to do it better. From his image, posture, speaking style, and more, he worked hard to elevate his cool factor. Having worked on it for so many years, he indeed had some accomplishments. Now, he has the reputation of white-robed swordsman in school, maxing out his cool factor. However, compared to Lin Zikan's title of the strongest new king in school history, he fell far short, they simply weren't on the same level. Sigh, in the end, I'm just not strong enough. Chapter 209, 152, Paid Substitute Player _3. Otherwise, it would be me standing up there challenging that student union discipline inspector, and all eyes would be on me. I really want to get stronger. Luo Yongjian said, his face filled with longing. He had come to deeply understand that the best way to show off was to crush his opponents with overwhelming strength and flaunt his arrogance. As he was yearning. Next door, Li Moyu looked at Lin Zikan on the martial stage below with great admiration in her eyes. Lin Zikan was unafraid of anyone and possessed absolute confidence. This was the attitude a true powerhouse should have. So what if he's only a regular 7th order? As long as one is strong enough, defeating higher levels isn't impossible. Only a strong person like Lin Zikan is worthy to be my opponent. In the 4 years of our future college life, he and I are destined to become equally matched arch-rivals, Li Moyu said. Then added, the premise is that he's willing to change majors to Evolution College and take the genetic fusion path. Ma Ziwei glanced at Li Moyu upon hearing this, feeling a bit displeased. Li Moyu's words, only Lin Zikan is worthy to be my opponent, deeply wounded her. It made her feel a humiliating sense of being looked down upon, and she clenched her fists involuntarily. 30 years in the East, 30 years in the West, do not underestimate a young girl in poverty. Below the stage, the bald teacher saw that the challenge was set, and shouted up to the two. Are both of you ready? Ready, they answered in unison. The bald teacher nodded and then bellowed, start the challenge. The moment the words were uttered, Jin Minjiao released a biological oppression of a high-level 7th order creature, causing the hair of those students close to the martial stage to flutter wildly. So strong. Is this the value of a student union member? How can Lin Zikan win? Feeling the power of Jin Minjiao's biological oppression, the students below the stage were all tense for Lin Zikan. Buzz! A sudden whooshing sound erupted. Jin Minjiao had struck. He bolted out with explosive speed. His body turned into an afterimage. In an instant, he was up close to Lin Zikan. Then, swinging his thick Kylin arm, he smashed a heavy punch towards Lin Zikan's face. His own girlfriend's face had been swelled by a punch. Now, he wanted to return the favor, swelling Lin Zikan's face. It was quick. With only a bang, the sound rang out. Jin Minjiao's fist smashed heavily onto Lin Zikan's face. However, Lin Zikan remained unflinching, not flying off the martial stage from the punch. On the contrary, Jin Minjiao, the one who had thrown the punch, suddenly changed color and, with a plop, knelt on the ground, clutching his right hand and crying out in pain. Ah! My hand! My hand! The fist that hit Lin Zikan's face was shattered on impact, suffering a comminuted fracture. Lin Zikan looked down at him, silently lifting his leg and bang, sweeping it across his face, sending him flying out of the martial stage with a single kick. What's happening? Is this a dream? The student union's discipline inspector was just instantly defeated. Everyone on the scene was dumbfounded. No one had imagined the fight ending so swiftly. It was so fast that it was beyond belief. After a moment, when everyone came to their senses, they all looked at Lin Zikin as if he were a monster. It was exaggerated. How could this newcomer king be so strong? Incredible. At the same time, on the second-floor corridor, Li Moyu, Luo Yongjian, Ma Ziwei, and others were all terrified. How could Lin Zikin be so strong without having undergone genetic fusion? This is not scientific at all. Among them, Ma Ziwei had an expression full of life's doubts. There was a brief shake in his conviction. Could it be that the pure-blood human path is the future? No. Impossible. The pure-blood human path has no future. Lin Zikin might be strong in the early stages, but come the later stages, he will be just like everyone else and regret it deeply. On another note, Li Moyu, looking at Lin Zikin on the martial stage, showed a trace of fear in his eyes. He remembered the scene during the opening school trial where he punched Lin Zikin in the face, only for Lin Zikin to be completely unharmed, while his own hand was crushed to the point of fracturing painfully. No. I must fuse again. Increase the dosage for the fusion. I absolutely cannot lose in the freshman competition. I must win. Li Moyu muttered to himself for a while. Then he quickly took out his phone and called his family in capital city. A moment later, the call connected. A deep male voice came from the other end. Moyu, why are you suddenly calling Grandpa? Li Moyu, Grandpa, I want to fuse with the second exotic beast gene, and I want to do it tomorrow. On the martial stage. After instantly killing Jin Minjia with a kick, turning his face into a pig's head, Lin Zikin didn't rush to leave the stage, but rather looked around at the crowd below and calmly announced. From today onwards, I will be accepting paid commissions to fight on behalf of others. Whether you are a freshman, a senior, or a member of the student council, as long as you give me credits, I can fight for you to challenge anyone. The price of intervention will depend on the opponent's strength. As long as there are enough credits, I won't hesitate to fight even the student council president. After dropping these lines, Lin Zikin leaped down from the stage, and under the watchful eyes of the shocked crowd, left the gymnasium with Shen Qinghan and Li Chuxin. Earning credits through tasks outside of school wouldn't be enough. Tasks were limited, and wouldn't be available every day. Even if they were, they might not be suitable. Taking on commissions at school to earn some extra money on the side seemed like a good idea. Shortly after Lin Zikin left, the gymnasium instantly erupted into commotion. What did he say? He's actually going to be a hired fighter? And he dares to challenge even the student council president. What a joke! The student council president is an advanced level creature, how can a freshman dare to do that? So arrogant, this new king is too arrogant, he really has no idea how high the sky is or how deep the earth is. He must be bluffing. Damn, what a poser! If the student council president showed up in front of him right now, he'd probably wet his pants. Everyone was discussing, all thinking that Lin Zikin must have gone insane. Otherwise, why would he say such a thing? On the second-floor corridor, Li Moyu was dumbfounded, looking somewhat stupidly at Ma Ziwei beside him, and asked, I didn't mishear just now, did I? Lin Zikin is going to be a hired fighter, and he even dares to take on the student council president. At this point, Ma Ziwei was completely stunned and did not respond. Only Luo Yongjian on the other side was panting heavily with a face flushed red. The king of swagger, this is the king of swagger. I must become his disciple. I must learn his skill of showing off in front of others. P.S. Begging Bowl, asking for monthly passes and recommendations. Chapter 210, 153, First Proxy Order Business. After leaving the gym, Lin Zikin took Shen Qinghan and Li Chuxin back to the dormitory, made a late dinner, and chatted while eating. Ziai Chen, how are you so strong, strong to the point where even a sophomore disciplinary officer is no match for you? Han Han, you too, you used to be just as soft and weak as I am, and now you're so strong that I find it unfamiliar. I checked WeChat moments, and you seems quite impressive now. It feels like out of the four of us in the group, only I am stuck in the same place. Which is distressing. Lee Chuxin felt quite uncomfortable inside. In high school, she hadn't noticed the gap between them all. Now in university, she unconsciously felt everyone was from a different world. This feeling made her somewhat downcast. Lin Zikin consoled her, think about it differently, you'll feel much better once you consider that you have 3 strong legs to lean on in the future. Fair point, indeed. Lee Chuxin nodded with a smile. Changing her perspective as Lin Zikin suggested, she indeed felt much better, and even a bit thrilled. Lin Zikin took a sip of soup and said, Chu Xin, if you ever see someone being bullied by upperclassmen, you can recommend me to them. They can spend academic credits to hire me as a heavy hitter. No problem, leave it to me. Lee Chuxin readily agreed, smiling, I'll be Lin's top salesman in the future, helping Lin to make his business bigger and stronger and let King Han be the lady boss. Lin Zikin laughed, that would be great, I'll arrange the commissions for you. Lee Chuxin waved her hand, don't worry about commissions, that seems too formal. After dinner, they cleaned up the dining table together and sat chatting for a while. It wasn't long before Lee Chuxin went back to her own dormitory. Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan played with their phones for a while, and when the time came, they heading to the bathroom together for a bath to relax. By the way, Han Han, can you mention to your mentor, asking her to modify the frequency of challenge rights? Either remove the frequency limit or raise it. Otherwise, being able to challenge only once a week is too little, and we can't expand the substitute fight service. In the bathtub, Lin Zikin skillfully scrubbed Shen Qinghan's back while talking to her. Shen Qinghan furrowed her beautiful brows, is it possible to change school regulations like that? With your mentor's power, it's possible. No, I mean, it's not like my mentor will change the school rule just because I say so. Why not? Lin Zikin confidently said, you are an exceptional genius, a once-in-a-generation kind of genius, and she wouldn't satisfy such a small request from you. Besides, doesn't the school advocate survival of the fittest and survival of the fittest? Removing the limitation on challenge frequency would make students more competitive, which aligns with the school's philosophy. Trust me, your mentor will listen to you. Lin Zikin's hands had moved from Shen Qinghan's back to other areas, continuing to massage as he spoke. Shen Qinghan, feeling blissful, curled her toes and said with a voice full of pleasure, then I'll give it a try. Having said that, she picked up the phone that was placed in front of her and sent a message to Yuan Dongji exactly as Lin Zikin had suggested. A moment later, within 5 minutes, Yuan Dongji replied. She agreed to remove the limits on the number of challenges. She actually agreed? Shen Qinghan was stunned for a moment, somewhat incredulous. Then a sense of indescribable joy arose. This is fantastic! Is this what it feels like to have privilege? After having lived as a person for 18 years, I finally get to experience the kind of treatment Xiao Chen gets every day as a genius. After being excited for a good while, Shen Qinghan composed herself and said to Lin Zikin behind her, Xiao Chen, my mentor agreed to your suggestion. She said she would remove the limit on the number of challenges. Hearing the good news, Lin Zikin smiled, wrapped his arms around her from behind, and said warmly, we owe it all to you. Tell me, what reward would you like? After thinking for a moment and hesitating, Shen Qinghan said in a sticky voice, all this time, I've been your loyal follower, I want to experience what it feels like to be doted on. Sure, I'll be your loyal follower tonight and let you enjoy being pleased. Really? Shen Qinghan exclaimed with joy. Lin Zikin said with a smile, of course, it's a fair exchange. Meanwhile, at the same time, In the Student Council President's office, more than a dozen members of the Student Council sat in a meeting, all of them high and mighty in the school. This Linziken is too arrogant, too disrespectful. He even dares to spout bold words in front of so many people, saying he would dare to fight the president. He's simply challenging the authority of our student council, he must be dealt with seriously. A young man with a parted hairstyle angrily said to the others. After hearing him, everyone joined in the discussion. I must admit, this year's king of the newcomers is indeed exaggeratedly strong, even Mingyu, with his biological level as high as ordinary 7th order, couldn't withstand a single blow in front of him. Strong, he may be, but he is too arrogant, he'll be put in his place sooner or later. It's normal, young after all. If I were as strong as him in my freshman year, I'd be arrogant too. I think we should invite him to join the student council. Normal, my ass. He's so arrogant that he says he would dare to fight the president, I think he's sick in the head. As time went on, more and more people began to voice their opinions. The majority were expressing their dissatisfaction and saying that Linziken needed to be dealt with seriously to maintain the authority of the student council. A minority admired Linziken, suggesting they should recruit him into the student council. President, what do you think about Linziken and this substitute fight issue?